Greetings and welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into reparenting, exploring all of the tools and resources that you'll need to help you along your journey. This podcast is divided into 3 sections. The first is a daily reading. The second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts. And the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad you've joined us today on this journey of self-expansion and growth. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe this podcast wherever you're listening, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your help here really makes a huge difference in allowing us to spread the word and build a more supportive community as we continue with our self-reparenting. Now, before we get started, I have some quick updates for you. First, I'd like to introduce our Patreon community. Here, for a small monthly fee, you can join us for 3 weekly meetings for additional support with your reparenting journey. On Sundays, we have a meditation group. On Tuesdays, we have a book club discussion. And on Thursdays, we have open topic conversations. You can find out more details about this if you go to the Reparenting Daily website and check out on the community tab. In addition to that, we also have a WhatsApp group to foster more daily connection and support for whenever you need it. And this is a community of fellow travelers from around the world who will always be there when help is needed. It's just one of the many ways that we're building our network of resources that are really going to help support your reparenting journey. For the next update, I'm very excited to announce that I've just released some first books. The first is probably the most important, and it's called the Reparenting Daily Journal. Now, this journal is a daily guide for 365 days of the year. We'll be starting in 2025, and basically each month corresponds to a theme in reparenting, and each week of each month corresponds to a sub-theme of the monthly theme. Now, from the beginning of the year, 2025, each daily episode will correspond with the themes in the daily workbooks. And so you can use this as a guide to work through your reparenting journey to stay focused, ensuring that you cover all of the most critical areas within a year's time. And again, this will be aligning up with the podcast, so you can use both of these to make a more engaging and interactive experience. This is ensuring that you really book progress on your reparenting journey. The next set of books I've written is called Fairy Tales for Reparenting. This is a collection of 3 books that contain short stories or fairy tales inspired from Jungian analysis, mythology, philosophy, and psychology that really is targeted to helping you connect to your inner child. And so these stories are very short. They're not very long. They're written in a very simple manner so that it's not too taxing on you, so you can more easily connect with the joy and fun of your inner child. More interestingly, however, is that at the end of each story, there's an analysis section that really analyzes the main themes and concepts within each story to provide encouragement and inspiration. Additionally, you will find corresponding journal prompts after each story and each analysis section to help you reflect deeper on how the themes of each fairy tale can be reflected and correspond to your own personal journey as you work towards self-expansion. You can find all of these books now available on Amazon, so go ahead and give us a look and give us some support. And as I've mentioned before, this entire process of reparenting and self-expansion is really about growth, iterative change, and continuous improvement. Much like the process of nurturing the bonsai tree, our reparenting journey requires our consistency and care. So many thanks for being here and for supporting this project, and also to committing on your journey of self-expansion. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's practice. Today, we're going to be listening to a lecture and an interview with Carl Jung. This is an actual lecture from 1950, let me double check, 1957. So this is from the Jungian Ion. You can find the link in the description to watch the full interview. The full interview is about just about an hour. So you can check that out on YouTube. It's on the Jungian Ion YouTube page. They have a lot of excellent Jungian lectures and interviews and recordings of him from back in the 50s. So today we're going to listen to this, and he's discussing the persona. And just as a reminder, we're in February in the week. The theme of the month is self-compassion, self-kindness. We're in week 3, and this is the last day of week 3, the 15th until the 21st. And the theme for this week has been cultivating inner warmth and self-acceptance. So why would I choose to have a lecture or an interview about the persona? I believe that the persona, first of all, to inform those who don't know what the persona is the mask that we wear, socially facing in order to adapt to situations to gain acceptance and belonging, in a very high level view, but he'll go more into detail. How does this impact our ability to accept ourselves? Because we have to have a certain level of self-awareness in order to match the self-acceptance. Because if you're not self-aware, you're not really sure what you're accepting, right? Or you're accepting just the persona, which is not truly you, which is why you wouldn't be seeing the breakthroughs. And the thing that he discusses is sometimes people can become so lost in their personas and societal expectations, familial expectations, that they can lose touch with their original self. And so it's important to remember to have compassion for yourself and whatever you've experienced that's led you here into this moment. There is a solution, and this is just another piece of knowledge to have in mind as you're working towards self-acceptance, because there's more to you than you might realize. Since this is a lecture, we will skip the analysis section, and I just ask you to reflect on that question. How does your persona play a role in your level of self-acceptance? And how can you use your persona to benefit you in your journey of self-expansion? Here's Carl Jung.
Dr. Jung, we have been discussing some of the factors in the development of the personality of the individual, and you have very kindly elaborated for us on some of your fundamental concepts, such as the archetype and the anima and the animus. Now, another concept or idea that seems to be a very interesting one in your work is the persona. I wonder if you would mind telling us a little bit about how you construe this term, persona.
Well, this is a practical concept we need in elucidating people's relation. I noticed with my patients, particularly with people that are in public life, that they have a certain way of presenting themselves. For instance, take the doctor. He has a certain way. For instance, he has good bedside manners, and he behaves as one expects a doctor behaves. He may even identify himself with it and believe that he is what he appears to be. He must appear in a certain form, unless people don't believe that he is a doctor. And so when he is a professor, he's also supposed to behave in a certain way so that it is plausible that he is a professor. So the persona is partially the result of the demands the society has. And on the other side, it is a compromise with what one likes to be, or with what, or as one likes to appear. So take, for instance, a parson. He also has his particular manner, and as corresponding to the general expectation, and he behaves also in another way, combined with his persona that is forced upon him by society in such a way that also is fiction of himself, his idea about himself is more or less portrayed or represented. So the persona is a certain complicated system of behavior which is partially dictated by society and partially dictated by the expectations or the wishes one nurses oneself. Now, this is not the real personality, in spite of the fact that people will assure that that is all quite real and quite honest, yet it is not. Now, such a performance, or the performance of the persona is quite all right, as long as you know that you are not identical with the way in which you appear. But if you are unconscious of this fact, then you get into sometimes very disagreeable conflicts. Namely, people can't help noticing that at home, for instance, you are quite different from what you appear to be in public. And people who don't know it stumble over it in the end. They deny that they are like that, but they are like that. They are it. And then you don't know, now, which is the real man? Is he the man as he is at home or in intimate relations? Or is he the man that appears in public? It is a question of Jekyll and Hyde. Occasionally there is such a difference that you would almost be able to speak of double personality. And the more that is pronounced, the more people are neurotic. They get neurotic because they have two different ways. They contradict themselves all the time, and there's as much as they are unconscious of themselves. But they don't know it. They think they're all one. Everybody sees that there are two. And some know him only from one side, some others know him only from the other side. And then there are situations that clash, because the way you are creates certain situations with people in your relations, and these two situations don't chime in. They are just dissonance. And the more that is the case, the more the people are neurotic.
Actually, would you say that the individual may even have more than two personas?
We can't afford it very well to play more than two roles. But there are cases, for instance, where people have up to 5 different personalities in cases of dissociation of personality, where, for instance, the one person, say, call it person A, doesn't know of the existence of the person B, but B knows of A. Or there may be a third personality, C, that doesn't know of the two others. There are such cases in literature, but they are rare. Very ordinary cases, it's just an ordinary dissociation of a personality. One calls that a systematic dissociation, in contradistinction to the chaotic or unsystematic dissociation you find in schizophrenia.
What is the difference between the term ego, as you see it, and the term...
Well, you see, the ego is supposed to be the representative of the real person. For instance, in the case where B knows of A, but A doesn't know of B,
Yes.
In that case, one would say the ego is more on the side of C.
Yes.
Because the ego has a more complete knowledge, and A is a split-off personality.
You also use the term self. Would this have a different meaning than, say, ego or...
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You see, when I say self, then you mustn't think of I, myself, because that is only your empirical self, and that is covered by the term ego.
Ego, yes.
But when it is matter of the self, then it is matter of a personality that is more complete than the ego, because the ego is only consists of what you are conscious of.
Yes.
What you know to be yourself. For instance, in our example, B that knows A, and A doesn't know B, B is relatively in the position of the self. Namely, the self is on the one side the ego, on the other side the unconscious personality, which is in the possession of everybody. Very often it is just the other way around, that the unconscious is in possession of consciousness. But that is a different case. Now, you see, while I am talking, I am conscious of what I say, I am conscious of myself, yet only to a certain extent. quite a lot of things happen. Once I make gestures, I'm not conscious of them.
Yeah.
They happen unconsciously. You can see them. I may say or use words, and I can't remember at all having used those words, or even at the moment I'm not conscious of them. So any amount of unconscious things occur in my conscious condition. I'm never wholly conscious of myself. While I'm trying, for instance, to elaborate an argument, at the same time, there are unconscious processes that continue, perhaps a dream which I had last night, or a part of myself thinks of God knows what, or of a trip I'm going to take, or of such and such people I have seen, or when I am at writing a paper, I am continuing writing that paper in my mind without knowing it. You can discover these things, say, in dreams, or if you are clever in immediate observation of an individual, then you see in the gestures or in the expression in the face that there is what one calls an arrière-pensée, something behind conscious, so that you have finally the feeling, that man has something up his sleeve. And you can even ask him now, what are you really thinking? If you're thinking all the time something else, yet he's not conscious of it. Or he may be. There are, of course, great individual differences. There are individuals who have amazing knowledge of themselves, of the things that go on in themselves. But even those people wouldn't be capable of knowing what is going on in their unconscious. For instance, they are not conscious of the fact that while they live a conscious life, all the time a myth is played in the unconscious. A myth that extends over centuries, namely archetypal ideas, a stream of archetypal ideas that goes on through one individual, through the centuries. And that comes then to the daylight in the great movements, say in political movements or in spiritual movements. For instance, in the time before Reformation, people dreamt of the great change. And that's the reason why such great transformations could be predicted if somebody has been clever enough to see what there is going on in people's mind, in the unconscious mind, would be able to predict it.
Welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for this 10-minute silent meditation. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you are taking some time to be with your breath to connect with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing, as if they are drifting down a river. Use this time to connect with yourself. Whatever time of day you are listening to this, Namaste.